So I'm here with David Cayton at Matt and Menace House, filling in for Ben Emlyn Jones, who's not here. And we had a marvellous talk from David last night at the group here in High Wycombe, and he told us a story, well, not told us a story, but gave us an account of a very interesting case in Australia, which happened in 1993, with some extraordinary pictures which hopefully we're going to put in this video. And I certainly wasn't aware of the case and the details, and you have done an investigation into this case, and I just thought maybe we could talk about that for about 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes, that sort of time period. And if you can sort of go through the details of how you became aware of this and the people involved and so forth, and then, as I say, we'll try and put the pictures in the video.
Right. Well, first of all, I haven't personally done the investigation in this. It was my friend and research colleague, particularly crop circles, Robert Hulse, who we were down in the Wiltshire Fields some years ago in one formation. We bumped into this chap called Gary Ninnis, who was also from Adelaide, and we got very friendly, and he got particularly friendly with Robert because they're both experienced interaction with ETs over their lives. And it ended up with Gary coming over to England several years to visit the crop circles and visit us and stay with Robert. Anyway, at one point in this friendship developed, he mentioned this case also near Adelaide. It's a place called Maslin Beach, where this chap called Eric Thomason had accidentally taken 3 photographs, or maybe 4, of a UFO coming out of this water and then hovering more or less opposite, about 200-300 feet off the surface. And Eric had several days been trying to get a good weather to take an early morning photograph for a competition run by a newspaper. And he borrowed his son's camera because he hadn't owned a camera. So this camera is a 35mm film camera. So in the 10th of March 1993, he set his alarm for 5:45 or something like that. And the weather of the sky looked promising, so he set off with the dog to give the dog a walk, and walked a short distance, quarter of a mile maybe, from his home in Maslin Beach to the coastline. And there's a particular point there, it's called Ochre Point. So we're about 15-20 miles south of the city of Adelaide. So then he's walking along this coastal path, so he's like 200 foot up from the beach.
Yeah.
And then he noticed, looking round for a shot, he couldn't see anybody else, no fishing vessels or anything. Saw this disturbance in the water very briefly, and then this circular object, craft, appeared, dripping water, and then hovered off at him. So he had his son's camera with a leather strap around his wrist, so he sort of took a shot, and then it had 3 legs extended down.
We'll see that in the first shot, don't we?
Well, why the legs are there? Because they're over the sea, perhaps they're intending to go and land inland somewhere, possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
But anyway, he noticed a smaller dot up to the right, much higher. He didn't sort of perceive initially what that was, and then he realised this thing was another little craft, and it would approach the main object, which we like to call another ship. I mean, bear in mind, Eric had no knowledge of ufology. He was 69 years of age. He was an ex-wartime decorated pilot with a DFC and a DFM.
And he wrote a book, didn't he? That book that you showed the cover of.
About his squadron.
Yeah, we'll show the cover of that.
Yeah, you can put that in if you like. So he'd no computers, pre-digital age anyway. Yeah, he never owned a computer or knew how to use one. So he just grabbed these pictures, and then this smaller object came round over the top, behind, and circled round, and then went underneath. And in the 3 shots, it docks and fits neatly and snugly into the hollowed centre of the mothership, which was like a donut recess. And you could see on the angle of he was tilted at one point, and you could see visually what like a railed gantry over the periphery of the curvature that you could see into it with lights or something. It was internal lights around this gantry, and then there was 3 lights underneath, sort of recessed, and you could see 2 of them from his position, which we think now had some connection with the docking procedure to bring the thing in, and it went up and sort of slotted in neatly to, if you like, fill the hole, fill the gap.
Yeah. And you could see this in the sequence of images. Unfortunately, he didn't get one of the final sort of docking, did he? But we've got about 3 or 4 images of the sequence of this happening. Yeah. And I'd certainly never heard of this. I think when I checked this morning, I'd seen this one of the pictures, but I didn't realise it formed part of the sequence, such as you've described.
Yeah. So having got, luckily, some prints to bring back from Australia, Robert brought them back, and he dumped them to me, and he had a go playing with them on his computer, but I'm perhaps a bit more experienced or proficient, if you like. So on a program called Picasa 3, I sharpened up Eric's original prints, which was scanned, or Robert scanned them, I think, and it improved the things no end. And you could then see what were light beams, what are called tractor beams, sort of connecting the smaller craft with the mothership. And then as this little craft starts to go into be recessed, if you like, there's one vertical beam of light comes down off the mothership, and 2 smaller ones appearing to come from the scout craft, to call it what you will, and then it's drawn in. And Eric is now feeling a bit scared, and it's like a ditch in the path on the top of the beach, cliff top. So he sort of crouches down, and he's slightly lower, and there's bits of grass in the bottom of his picture. So he wasn't sort of silhouetted against the sky, so the people in the craft possibly wouldn't have seen him, but I reckon they do anyway, but they didn't interfere with him. And then it set off inwards, inland, over his head, with drops of water still coming off it, as it had come out of the sea, on his dog, and his dogs didn't seem to be too spooked, as animals often are. He never mentioned the dog being a problem.
No.
Pulling the lead or whining or anything, which is a bit unusual. And then he kept the film in the camera, not unprocessed, for quite a long time, so he used the film up, and then I think he went to a local chemist or somewhere and had the prints done. And then they didn't know what to do about it. He hoped other people would have seen it and there'd been other reports in the press, perhaps, to verify what he had seen. But nothing happened. Anyway, he ended up making a report. A UFO organisation came to see him, which he had no reason to mistrust, I presume. And he took his pictures, and he never got them back, never saw them again. And then his son had a role in the military, I think the Australian Air Force, and said to his dad, "We'll borrow the negatives, and we would like to have a proper look at them." So, trusting his son and not being aware of any skullduggery going on with suppression of UFO business, as ufologists are, be very careful what you do. He very innocently handed over his negatives to his son, who, and months and months later, I suppose he asked umpteen times, he got them back, and they damaged the negatives, which I assume was a deliberate act to do that. And then he filled in a sighting report for another kosher UFO organisation, meticulously written report.
Yes, we've got a copy of that, haven't we?
Yeah, with beautiful diagrams of the craft, and even assessment of measurements of the thing, and height above the water, distance from him.
I mean, you can see from that report that he was a trained observer. He was trained to...
Superbly done. Anyway, for years afterwards, he was plagued, and his wife pestered by people, irate people, ringing him up, accusing him of hoaxing, and it was a model, you know, suspended by wires and whatever, having deliberately not wanted to accept it was a genuine sighting, and he innocently happened to be there at the right place at the right time. So,
and I mean, this thing kind of shot after the water dripped on, and it shot straight up.
It went up vertically, and then moved inland over his head, and they were sort of looking, and he felt the drops of water falling onto them. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's an extraordinary account. And to say, I've not heard of this before. It really is an extraordinary account, and so I mean, the other thing that you also mentioned was when we were discussing this yesterday on the drive down, was that Robert Hulse, who'd also done a lot of work on this, and he actually went out to meet this fellow, didn't Eric? Yeah,
yes.
And we've got this picture of them as well.
Yeah.
And then he kind of wanted to put that on the UFO casebook forum, didn't he? So tell us about that situation that arose there.
Well, Robert was thinking. By the way, he was quite happy for me to talk about the case on last night in the talk. And obviously, I think he'll be okay about what we're doing.
Right. Well, we'll ask him. We're going to ask him, aren't we? So yeah.
So he decided to give it an airing because he was acting as a crop circle moderator on UFO casebook forum. Forum. So he put the pictures up with a bit of a tale, what I've said now, I suppose, about Eric Thomason and how he came to take the pictures. And the site was swamped with people condemning it as a hoax again, just like repeating what happened to Eric in Australia, which got Robert a bit cross, I suppose. He did his best to defend our corner of the authenticity of the report and the images. But he got a bit disenchanted, and after a while he removed his name to be a moderator with Casebook. So I think that's the only other time, apart from private and friends, that this case has been explored.
Right, and I mean, we were talking about this morning as well, and I was talking about this case with Mark McCandlish, the aerospace illustrator, and the alien reproduction vehicle.
Yeah.
And then when I did a search for that image, or maybe I'll show that. That the one that you've shown us, and it wasn't as clear a version, was one of the ones that appeared. So, I thought, having shown these images, that it did look a little bit like this so-called ARV, and somebody else had obviously thought the same thing and done this comparison, but all these other details that you've given, I'd never heard of that, and this whole extraordinary thing with the docking. In daylight, when you first told me this yesterday, I thought I assumed this would be in the dead of night, but this is, as you see in the pictures, it's like, and this is another example.
6 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock in the morning. This is another of those examples where you'll typically go to some newbie. There's no clear pictures of a flying saucer have ever been taken anywhere, therefore they're not real. Well, I'm sorry, but this is like crystal clear.
Yes.
And as you'll see if I show this image again, the thing that really struck me was the lighting, where we've got the smaller object, which I think is just about to dock. It's kind of seems to be at an angle before it goes into dock. And you can see the edge of that object, and you can see the edge of the larger object, and the angle of the sun matches perfectly. And you can just see from the lighting that this is a real situation, and all the other details that you've given. We know the name of the guy, we know where he was, we know the time, we know why he was there, and yet people will put these CGI fakes up, and there's no background, there's no witness name, there's no description of where they were, and they'll say, this is the best UFO film ever shot. And there's that particular one you might have seen that was alleged to have been shot in Haiti. That was about 6 or 7 years ago, with these incredible looking things, but there were no named witnesses with it. But this is completely the opposite of that. We've got crystal clear pictures, a very detailed witness account from a highly qualified and respected witness, and we've got the whole story that you've given. We know the provenance, we know that there was problems with the negatives and that sort of thing, and prints were taken, and we know all of that. So this sort of case is, to me, proof positive that either we've got craft visiting from somewhere else, physical craft, or we've got some advanced black ops program which had working anti-gravity craft flying around near Adelaide, wasn't it?
Adelaide, yeah.
In 1993. You know, that's only my two explanations for it.
Yeah.
And the fact that Robert had this experience on the forums, where essentially he is disclosing highly classified information, even though he doesn't. That's not the way he would describe it, perhaps. And that's when I think they have these keyword searches, and as soon as they see, maybe Adelaide UFO, and the name of the gentleman, Eric, and the details, it pops up on some screen somewhere, and they go in and manage that disclosure of that information.
Yeah.